Andrew Moloney has suffered a horrific knockout by the hands of Nakatani, and after the knockout, we saw Andrew Moloney shivering. And in this video, we will be talking about the mechanism of the knockout and the reason for the shivering that has resulted due to the knockout. And we would also be breaking down the punch Nakatani threw that has made Andrew Moloney shiver so much. So I am Dr. Harun Elias, and if you are into anatomy and mechanics of sports injuries, consider subscribing to this channel. So let us first have a look at the anatomy of the punch, and we can see clearly that Nakatani threw a left hook, and we would be discussing what muscles and what kind of mechanics are involved in throwing this kind of punch. So when Nakatani threw a left hook, we can see that there is flexion at the elbow joint, and before I move on any further, I would be discussing the two terms, flexion and the extension. And when there is movements towards the bicep muscle, that is known as the flexion, and when there is movement away from the bicep muscle, that is called the extension. And in this side image, we can clearly see that there is flexion at the elbow joint, and when the elbow joint is being flexed, and the bicep muscle that is present on the front of our arm and the tricep muscle that is present on the back side of our arm, and when both of these muscles are contracting and there is a flexion at the elbow joint, this is known as isometric contraction. Iso means same and metric mean the length, and that means that there is no increase in the length of both of these muscles. And when there is not an increase in the bicep and tricep muscles length, and there is a flexion at an elbow joint, we can clearly see that Nakatani's arm is being lifted, and this movement is being done by the deltoid muscle that is responsible for the abduction of the body. And by abduction, I mean that the arm is being lifted. However, at different degrees, there are different muscles that are being involved in order to lift the arm, but more importantly, the muscle that is involved here is the deltoid. And in this image, we can clearly see the contraction of the deltoid muscle, and we can see bicep muscle is being contracted, tricep muscle is being contracted, while all of the lengths of bicep and tricep muscles are the same, and there is flexion at the elbow joint. And when this kind of a movement is being conducted, there is maximum conversion of the energy, and not much energy has been dissipated. And this is one of the punches that is considered to be very powerful, as there is not much loss of the power during this kind of a movement. And when this kind of conservative energy gets transferred to the opponent's face, there is always chances of the maximum damage. And after receiving this punch from Nakatani, Andrew Moloney fell right on the ground, and he started shivering. And let us now have a look at what point did Nakatani has connected Andrew Moloney before I move on to talking about the shivering of Andrew Moloney. And as you can see that it is this portion on the chin where Nakatani has connected Andrew Moloney, and we can suspect that there could be a fracture of this portion, and our chin is being made of mandible bone that makes up the lower jaw, while the upper jaw is made by maxilla, one of the bones of our face. And this could result in the fracture of mandible or the maxillary bone. However, there is no confirmation regarding this, but we can always suspect that this kind of powerful punch can result in the fracture of one of these bones. But it was not this reason that has resulted in the shivering of Andrew Moloney, but after receiving the left hook from Nakatani, Andrew Moloney went straight down the ground, and the main reason that Andrew Moloney was not able to move after receiving this punch was the concussion that has resulted due to the left hook of Nakatani. So when there is this kind of a powerful trauma to the head or to the face, there are always a chance of concussion, and during the concussion the brain usually collides with the skull. There are a lot of neural signals from the brain that start abruptly, and in order to control that, the brain usually tries to reset things off, and in order to reset things, brain tries to put the body in a supine position so that it could reset the body. And as far as shivering is concerned, our brain is responsible for maintaining the temperature of our body, and one of its part is called the hypothalamus. So our hypothalamus is also known as the thermostat of the body, and in response to a traumatic brain injury, the hypothalamus function can be altered, and it may detect any temperature changes in the core body temperature that are not even there, and could be responsible for shivering and the sweating of the body. However, there would have been no need for any of these changes, and I do think that this could have been the case here with Andrew Moloney, that his hypothalamus might have misjudged the situation due to a traumatic brain injury after receiving a left hook from Nakatani. And in the post fight images, we can see that Andrew Moloney was having a rapid deep breathing, and the doctor in the ringside was not trying to move Andrew Moloney. However, it is one of the protocols that the fighter is not being moved immediately after receiving a knockout until he regains his consciousness. So this is it from this video. If you are into this kind of content, consider subscribing to this channel.